crank it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe or we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the bad, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
All right, good morning, everybody. How about it? We are now just 2 days away from the extraordinary celebration of an extraordinary accomplishment. Do I hear the music, Dylan? Where's my music? There we go. Gotta get that vibe going here because I gotta get myself rolling in the early morning. 2 days away from celebrating the accomplishment of the greatest thing maybe that mankind has ever done, with the exception of Christ rising from the dead and defeating Satan for all of our lives. Outside of that, the U.S. and its revolution and its founding and its declaration of independence from tyranny and its freedom, its embrace of freedom, probably the greatest thing that mankind has ever done. I won't even say probably. You think about it, look around the rest of the world. Look at it historically, look at it in recent history, look at it in ancient history. There have been empires, there have been kingdoms, there have been all kinds of, civilizations. None has ever achieved to the level of what this civilization has done. Western civilization, specifically American civilization. I call it the greatest force for good in the history of human civilization, the history of humankind. And I stand by that every single day that we talk about it. But now that we're about to celebrate 2.5 centuries of that exceptionalism, 2.5 centuries of that greatest good ever, it means just a little bit more, doesn't it? So we're 2 days away. I don't know what your plans are for the 4th. We may talk about that a little tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, I can now confirm to you I'm going to have a special guest on Friday the 3rd, because Saturday is the 4th. We won't have a live show. But tomorrow, I've got a special guest. If you watched, I think I played for you his presentation on stage for us in Columbus when we were down there with AFP and Concerned Veterans for America back on the 22nd. Brian Anderson, a triple amputee, Iraq war hero, got on stage, rolled on stage in his wheelchair, missing 2 legs and 1 arm, and told a story of inspiration and motivation unlike few people have ever really heard, I think. Like I said, when you have the audience simultaneously going from dabbing their eyes, with tears to laughing and busting a gut because of the way the story is told, it's something. Brian Anderson is going to be with me live. We're going to have him for a full hour tomorrow, and I feel like when we're celebrating the independence of this nation, when we're celebrating, the Declaration and all of the risks that went into what the founding fathers undertook, we also have to celebrate every single life that was put on the line to defend that freedom, to defend the liberty that we all enjoy right now. And that includes heroes like Brian. And so he's got a story to tell, unlike very few others. Travis Mills. I've had Travis Mills on this show in some form or another, even back when it was just a long form 1 hour interview type of show that I did while I was still doing the traditional terrestrial radio. But I've had Travis on, and Travis is also just a fountain of motivation and inspiration. He's, of course, one of the very, 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 very tiny number of people that are quadruple amputees. And similar stories between him and Brian Anderson. IED, roadside device, boom, just ended him, or at least it didn't. No, it's the wrong thing. I guess that's the point. Should have ended him, didn't. Blew his arms and legs off, and yet here he is. Talk about the indomitable spirit. So Travis, and you've heard his story. Now you're going to hear Brian's up close and personal. And I figure that's the best thing the day before the 4th of July, the day before Independence, and we celebrate. I feel like that's just the way to go. And I'm very much looking forward to Brian Anderson tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm also going to do something unique too. Have you ever read the Declaration word for word? Not the Constitution. That's too long. Although if you're a constitutional scholar and you take a constitutional course, you can probably get a pretty good grasp of it. But the Declaration is short enough to read, but most people probably still haven't done it. In honor of our 250th tomorrow, that's going to be a part of the show too. We're going to read the Declaration word for word. I will do my best not to stop and editorialize, but I probably can't do that. That's just not how I am. I'm a teacher by nature. It's what I did before I broke into radio and broadcasting, is I taught. I feel like when there is something that needs to be emphasized for the purposes of, passing on this information, what I feel is crucial information to a class, I'll stop a classic. Excuse me. I will stop a classic. If I'm reading literature, classic literature to a classroom, I will stop and editorialize to make sure that they understand what they just heard. Same thing here. It's just what I do. I like to explain. And so I'm going to read the Declaration tomorrow. I'm going to try to refrain from explaining, but I'll probably fail. But I'll refrain from emphasizing, but I'll probably fail because I'm going to have to hit certain points that everybody should be aware of. And maybe, just maybe, it will help make people, I don't know, feel like they should celebrate the 250th founding of this year of this, since the founding of this country, because a lot of people aren't going to celebrate at all. That's the reality. Let me dive into that here. Quick note on the guest today, Gary Click, Ohio State Representative Gary Click is going to be joining me in about 20 minutes. At 8:30, we're going to have Supreme Court Justice candidate Colleen O'Donnell on the program. Extremely important, as you know. The state of Ohio has swept virtually every statewide office. They hold currently a 6-1 margin in the Ohio Supreme Court. There are 6 Republicans. There is 1 Democrat. Colleen O'Donnell aims to remedy that and make it a clean 7-0 sweep. She's running against Justice Jennifer Brunner, who is a liberal Democrat. What more do you need to hear? Colleen O'Donnell is a constitutional conservative judge, and she is going to be joining me to talk about that. That'll be at 8:30. All right, so I got Gary Click at 7:30. I've got Colleen O'Donnell at 8:30, and for the other hour interspersed, we've got a lot of work to do. So I want to start there. First of all, let me greet the chatters, friends who are up early and at it. Thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate it. Sherry is exactly correct when she says Brian's story, talking about Brian Anderson, is extraordinary. Yes, indeed it is. What is Charlie G saying here? The U.S. is definitely the greatest thing mankind has ever done. However, God creating existence, human consciousness, and raising his son is just a little more important. No question about it. That's why I said it that way. I said outside of Jesus Christ defeating death and therefore saving all of us who are believers, this is the greatest thing mankind has done. And I'm counting Jesus as mankind because, of course, he was God and man personified in one. He was mankind as well. The Constitution needs to be understood with the Declaration. No question about it. It does. It absolutely does. Greatest living document ever written was not the Declaration, it was the Constitution. But you cannot have one without the other. You cannot have that Constitution written without the courage and the foresight to declare independence, knowing that the outcome could be something devastating for those who were deciding that we needed to undertake this revolutionary effort to break away from the king, to break away from the cruel British kingdom, empire, whatever you want to call it. But to break away from the British crown was one of the most courageous things humans have ever done. It's the most powerful nation at that time, empire, if you will, in the world, kingdom in the world, with the most powerful military and a bunch of ragtag people who got tired of it. People who got tired of living under the thumb of that tyranny said, we want to live free. We want to make our own rules. We will decide how we survive over here in these 13 tiny colonies, and we want this to be our own nation. It was the greatest thing. I mean, it was just extraordinary. That declaration led, of course, to that greatest living document outside of the Bible, which is the U.S. Constitution. All right. So I was talking about, talking a little bit about the celebration that we're going to have on Saturday and what I'm going to do for my part of it tomorrow on the 3rd, our last live show before the 4th of July, Independence Day plus 250. Not everybody is going to celebrate. Not everybody's going to celebrate, and you can take a look, or actually I want you to take a look at something. Dylan, throw up this story, number 2, from the Gateway Pundit, if you would. I want people to see this. A survey, this story is from June 17th, but it doesn't matter. It's relevant now because we're a couple of days away from the celebration. According to a survey, only 27% of Democrats plan to display the American flag this July 4th. Earlier this month, another poll found that fewer than 1 in 5, so under 20% of Democrats are proud to be Americans. Tie that to the survey that I just shared with you, I think on Tuesday. Another survey, this one was by Elon University, showed that Democrats, 55% of them, that's a majority and not a slim one. It's not even 51-49. It's a significant majority say they would rather live in another country. And yet here they are. Travel agencies abound, plenty of flights, plenty of roads, couple of borders, couple of oceans on either side of us. How about hightail your ass across one of them? You go ahead and cross the Atlantic and find your spot. Go ahead and cross the Pacific. Good luck. Go north, go south. We don't care. Just get your happy little blue asses out of here. If you hate it that much, if 55% of Democrats want to live somewhere else, what's stopping you? And the answer, of course, is the realization that everything they believe in is wrong. That there is no other nation on earth that can give them the opportunity to be the a-holes that they are and to actually thrive and make money and live free that they have right here. They're just crap talkers. I'm trying to keep the language down a little bit because it's summer and maybe kids aren't in school, and if they're in the background, I don't want to mess anybody up here, but they're just blank talkers about how they want out. But one thing for sure is they're not going to be displaying any pride. 27% plan to display the American flag. That's actually higher than I would have thought. Fewer than 1 in 5 say that they are proud. This is a Reuters Ipsos survey conducted June 12th through the 15th. 64% of Republicans said they were going to display an American flag or flag bunting outside their home. It's funny. I actually just put my bunting up yesterday. Flags out every day. My wife bought some other Americana stuff, some smaller flags that are kind of positioned in in front of the house in one of the mulch beds. And, we've got the red, white, and blue floral displays and a bunch of other things. But the bunting went up yesterday as well. That's actually a little lower than I would have thought. I told you I really, really got a feel for this back in 2024, fall of 2024, September, October, leading up to the November election. When I was riding my bike and just cranking out miles all across our city and the city around, and I would just took note of flags in front of yards as I tooled up and down the streets. And I every single one that I saw, I knew was a conservative or a MAGA or a Republican household, because the other thing I noticed was Kamala Harris signs. Few and far between they were, because obviously very few people were stupid enough to show their own ignorance and say, I support this bumbling, babbling buffoon of a candidate. But they didn't have any flags at all. No flags in the Democrat household yards. The Trump signs everywhere, flag, 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 flag. All right. So this is no surprise to me at all. But as we get ready to celebrate, like I said, 250, you'd think that maybe, just maybe, the politics of the left could be put aside and they could say, yeah, we wish we were in charge and we are going to try to become in charge by winning the midterms in November. But, even if we're not in charge, the USA is pretty damn good. It's been pretty good to us. It's been pretty good to all of us. Yeah, we could wave some flags. No, they won't do it. It's disgusting. It's not surprising. Let's take it up a notch, though. If we're not going to display the American flag, what are left-wing Democrats going to do in the state of Ohio? Dylan, please bring up story number 3, if you would. Yeah, this is something. Number 3, Dylan, pop that one up there, would you please? Come on. There we go. Wait, well, no. Thursday, number 3. Gary Click, Columbus Somalis, fled Somalia, now celebrating it. There you go. Come on, Dylan, you numbered them, for crying out loud. Come on, dog. You ought to be able to figure it out. Okay, so this is a tweet, an X post by Representative Gary Click, who's going to be joining me in about 10 minutes. He said, this is very confusing. We're talking about flag flying now, right? American flag flying on 250. Columbus Somalis fled Somalia to enjoy American freedom and independence. But now they're celebrating the place that wasn't good enough for them, rather than the nation whose benefits they enjoy. If you immigrate, shouldn't you assimilate? And why do liberal woke cities celebrate every other culture while denigrating American culture? There is only one Independence Day I will be celebrating this weekend. God bless the USA. Okay. And then it shows a link underneath that. Dylan, see if you can click that link. Click that link that says, that x.com link right underneath his text. It's not in the comments. There you go. Look at that. It doesn't go anywhere. This doesn't exist anymore. You want to know why? Because they took it down. Because of number 4. Dylan, please pop number 4 up there. What has our capital city of the state of Ohio, Columbus, done here? Columbus was about to celebrate Somalia and Somali independence on the United States 250th anniversary of our independence. And lo and behold, what was it that Gary Click was responding to that they took down? He was hold on a second. Sorry, I had the wrong one up on my side here. Scroll that up a little bit to show the actual video. There it is, celebrating Somali independence, a flowing flag that was supposed to be flown by, according to the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department. The city of Columbus, Ohio, our capital city, was going to celebrate Somali independence. And now if you scroll back up to the text there from Eric Doherty, Columbus has backtracked and announced they will not raise the Somali flag to celebrate Somali independence today, according to a Columbus mayoral spokesman. This comes after they deleted the post that sparked mass outrage. Quote, a social media post created by a city department falsely stated that City Hall would raise the Somali flag in recognition of Somali Independence Day. While the city recognizes and respects the aspirations of people around the world to live in freedom, this post was inaccurate and has been deleted. That according to the left-wing Columbus Dispatch. So how about it? So in other words, the city Parks and Recreation Department put something up there that the city now says was inaccurate. It wasn't the case. Why would they go to that trouble if that wasn't the plan all along? The city of Columbus is run by a bunch of freaking left-wing, borderline socialist lunatics, not much better than the city of New York. Not much better than the city of Chicago, not much better than the city of Los Angeles. Talking about radical left-wingers running our capital city. They had planned, indeed, to commemorate, honor, tribute, whatever you want to call it, the fraudsters, the grifters, and the pirates from Somalia that have overtaken our capital city. The second largest population of Somali pirates in the country. Second only to, of course, Minnesota St. Paul. And I'm sorry, I'm calling pirates what they are. The Somalis are best known for being pirates on the seas. They know how to pirate and confiscate booty, aka wealth, in the cities as well, on land as well. And the city of Columbus was all ready to welcome them and congratulate them and celebrate their own independence. Again, what Gary Click said in his tweet, which is why we're going to have him on here in a few minutes, was exactly correct. And I've always wondered this about the illegal immigration aspect. Why people who are fleeing Mexico, fleeing Guatemala, fleeing El Salvador, fleeing Venezuela, fleeing any one of the other countries that they're coming into the United States in those massive caravans that Biden used to welcome in, why they would be flying the flags of the place they just left. When I fly my American flag, it's because I am, everybody say it together, proud of the country that flag represents. But if I'm leaving a country because it's a, what did President Trump call it? Plug the ears of the kids for a second so I can quote the President of the United States directly. The President called them shithole countries. If you're fleeing plug their ears one more time, real quick. If they're fleeing a shithole country and coming into a country they like better, why do they want to fly proudly the flag of said blank hole country? Why aren't they stomping on that? Or at the bare minimum, leave it behind. Why are they flying the flag of Mexico or Guatemala or whatever as they enter the United States? You left that place because it was garbage. Now you come to this one and you want to bring the culture with you? Somalis, with the average IQ of a Somali as being 68, which is literally, functionally, mentally retarded. And I know that's a politically incorrect word. I don't care. We know that they changed it to developmentally disabled or delayed or whatever, but you understand the point. But the Somali, maybe that explains something about the Somalis. But they came here and they are enjoying way more than what their lot in life should be giving them because so much of the theft and the fraud that's been going on around this country, it's been exposed in a number of different ways. Daily Wire, also obviously Nick Shirley, Doge, J.D. Vance's investigative team, Brandon Gills, and so forth at the federal level, the fraud task force, they're all exposing it. And somebody wants to celebrate, the city of Columbus wanted to celebrate. Oh, but guess what? Not just the city of Columbus, believe it or not. Dylan, I believe, go up to, it's renumbered. Number one, yes, number one. Go up to number one, and let's show everybody this one before we bring in our guest. This one should be a surprise to no one. Boston, Massachusetts Mayor Michelle Wu, who is about, again, as radical as anybody this side of Mamdani, Zoltar himself, weeks after proposing a nearly $1 billion cut to veteran services. Veterans. Remember, I'm going to have Brian Anderson, triple amputee veteran hero, on the program tomorrow. After cuts, $1 million cut to veteran services in the city of Boston, Michelle Wu, who hates this country, let me say that again for emphasis, she despises this country, held a Somali flag raising ceremony at City Hall. propping up Somalis while diminishing our veterans, as libs of TikTok described it. Disgusting traitor. If you scroll down to the comments underneath that post, just a couple there, Dylan, why is there suddenly this love affair with Somalia on the left? Bizarre. The answer? They are a part of the attempt to literally break this country down, to destroy it. If they continue to steal billions of dollars collectively, billions of dollars from the United States, we get weaker, capitalism gets weaker, and the left gets what they want, an opportunity to tear down and build back up their vision of a socialist utopia. Veterans for federal government responsibility. Why is the city mayor controlling funds set aside for veterans? Next one says she hates America, no doubt. I guess the veterans did not vote for her nor support her commie ways, no doubt. I thought it was illegal to raise any flag that's not the American flag over official buildings. I think that is correct, but this is what the left does. And I have one more, I think, before I bring in Gary. There should be the Buffalo story somewhere on this list. Maybe I didn't add that one. Buffalo, and I guess that one, because the word alleged was used, that the city of Buffalo was allegedly also raising the Somali flag to commemorate Somali independence just a couple of days before American independence. It is repugnant. Pop-up number 5, real quick, if you could, Dylan. This is Mehek Cook, who, of course, has been one of those doing the work and investigating, excuse me, some of the fraud down in Columbus. Again, billions of dollars in fraud from hospice services, transport services, childcare services, and so forth. All of the buildings empty, all of the supposed offices completely shuttered, but they're raking in collectively, like I said, billions of dollars. Mehek Cook said, enough, quote, City Hall is not a foreign embassy. As an Ohioan, I am repulsed by the anti-Americanism here. Our leaders treat foreign nationalism as sacred while treating American patriotism as controversial. America's public buildings should honor America. Amen. That is exactly correct. Mehek, thank you for that. I reached out to Mehek last night, but way too late. She was already silenced at that hour, her notifications, but I'm going to try to invite her on to talk a little bit about this going forward, maybe next week. So that's kind of just like finger on the pulse of where we are now, 2 days away from America 250. Democrats, according to polls, want to leave America. 55% of them do not want to live here. They want to live in another country. Yet here they sit, as if they're being chained to the continent or to the homeland. They don't want to be here. Only 27% of them plan to fly a flag of any kind or any sort of display of American pride on Saturday, our official 250th birthday. When you think about that, that is, like I said, it's very, very telling. It is repugnant, is what it is. And less than 20%, less than 1 in 5 of them say they're proud to be an American. Those numbers, it's an old adage that we use sometimes. When somebody tells you who they are, particularly a left-wing Democrat, believe them. When they tell you they're anti-American and they hate what this country stands for and they will not celebrate its independence and they wish they lived elsewhere, believe them, which is why I want Republican candidates all over this state and all over this country in November's midterms to run massive campaigns telling everybody they don't like it here. That's why we cannot give them power over it. They hate America. Why would you let them run America? Why would you give them the majority in the United States Congress, House and Senate? Why would you want one of them to lead your state? They hate the country, but yet they want to run the country. You can't square those two things. You let somebody who hates you get power over you, you have just ended you. And evidence of that, like I said, is myriad. Just look at the history. I've done the socialist show. I've done socialist newsletters. I've done the socialist, warnings everywhere. Oh, by the way, I found another one. I actually, this morning before we came on live, I was kind of poking around Facebook a little bit at my memories, and I found some really, really, really good ones. Social. I don't think I can share now because Dylan has the screen, but there are a couple of. It's from years ago, but there are a couple of socialist memes that were popping around. This is even before Mamdani. July 2nd of 2024, I posted one that I just reposted today about how, see if you can grab my Facebook, Dylan, just super quick. Because like I said, I can't share it because you've got control of the screen. But if you can grab my Facebook, the Bob France Facebook, I don't think it's on the Strictly Speaking Facebook page, just the Bob France personal page, but it's public. So you should be able to pull it up. There it is. That's the one. Yeah. Pop that up there, Dylan. Oh, we got to get those comments off the stage too. Come on, Dylan, I need you, bro. You got to handle that stuff. Okay, this is just it's just funny, but it's also very simple and very real. How socialists, can you make that any larger or no? All right, that's not bad. A little better, I guess. All right, there you go. Good. How socialists think capitalism works. The poor have next to nothing and the rich have everything. How capitalism actually works. Both of them rise. The poor rises from poverty to middle class to maybe even upper middle class, and the rich rise from middle class or upper middle class to wealth. That's why they call them the rich. But it literally helps everybody. Scroll down. How socialists think socialism works. That the poor are now equal to the rich. How socialism actually works. The state has everything, and the poor people live under oppression and tyranny, literally at the point of guns. And the people have no say whatsoever. They cannot own anything. They have nothing except what the state gives them. So I feel like that's just appropriate right now, especially as we celebrate America 250 and as we come to recognize that the socialists are gaining power. They're gaining power from one end of this country to the other. So that's where we are, and that's what I wanted to talk about. And the recent Supreme Court decision, several of them, obviously, but the biggest one being the birthright citizenship one is one that is, I think, is emblematic of exactly the direction that we are talking about right now. That is such great concern. All right, before I bring our guest in, I want to remind everybody about our friends at AFP, Americans for Prosperity Ohio. AFP Ohio is the one that Brian Anderson that I told you about is going to be on tomorrow, the triple amputee. Yeah, I listened to him and met him. I listened to him on stage for the first time on the 22nd when we were down in Columbus at that great event. Gary Click was there. And Brian Anderson is going to be our special guest tomorrow. But I want to say thanks to AFP for hosting that event. They allowed me to speak and play a role in it. And I really, really enjoyed it. And really enjoying working with AFP altogether. They are a foundational partner of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. I want to thank them for that. And I want to encourage you to play a role. We talked in that Columbus meeting about one small step. What one small step can you take to help get ready for and bring about the next 250 of American exceptionalism? What role can you play? AFP can help you do that. Find a chapter near you. Go to that website, BuckeyeBlueprint.com. It'll take you to AFP. Find a chapter and and join and volunteer. See what you can do to help volunteer in your community and make a difference. We're trying to make a difference in all of those categories you see there. AFP is dedicated to making the Buckeye State the best state that it can be, to join the ranks of, or maybe surpass the ranks of states that have become the targets for people to move to because of their exceptionalism, because of their support of conservative values. Talking about Florida, Texas, Tennessee, those have been kind of the largest growing populations of people fleeing blue states. Let's make Ohio one of those, and AFP can help us do that. All right, I mentioned Gary Click, who, of course, is state representative, and Gary and I were chatting just a little bit last night. I said, you got any time to come on today? And he said, let's make it happen. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. It's great to see you this early in the morning.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the time, and thanks for short notice type stuff. I saw your tweet, and I saw, I actually commented on it earlier in the afternoon yesterday about what was going on down there in our capital city with respect to that Somalia national flag, and you gave a great response to it, and that's why I wanted to reach out to you last night. What happened, as you understand it? I know they took it down, the post from the Columbus Parks and Rec. But was the city, in your opinion, really ready to do this? And they were just basically throwing Parks and Rec under the bus and saying, no, that was never accurate.
Oh, yeah, they were definitely throwing them under the bus. There's no doubt about it. Luke Rosiak had a post recently that described how they voted for this in past years. The last year was 2025. I don't think there was any documentation for this year, but they have
voted for what? Celebrating the Somali independence?
Yeah, to recognize Somali independence. So they have a history of recognizing Somali independence, and And, I just don't understand why the left is so self-destructive. I mean, why do they hate 194 other nations, or love 194 other nations more than they love our nation? Why is it that they loathe us and love everyone else? I just don't get it. They hate America, but they love Somalia. As I told you in our text message, the best place to celebrate Somali independence is in Somalia. I mean, if it's that great, go there. Why did you come here? We are getting ready to celebrate the birthday of the greatest nation in the world. 250 years, Bob. And how do you become the greatest nation in 250 years? I mean, there's a long history of nations, and it didn't take us long to get there. And I think one of the reasons it didn't take us long to get there is because we had a great Christian heritage, a great Christian foundation. Based on the word of God is how we set up our government, not as a theocracy, but using the same principles that were used in Israel when Moses gave them the book of Deuteronomy, set up when they went into the promised land. And there's so many parallels here in America and how we were founded on biblical values. And that's really what the left hates. They want a secular, a godless nation. And of course, let's go to Somalia. Let's celebrate that independence. I think if I can shift gears just a little bit, there's a phrase that I keep using that it's not original with me. I borrowed it from Allie Beth Stuckey, and it's toxic empathy. And people let their heartstrings pull them more than their brain waves. And they think about how people feel. And listen, I can understand why everybody wants to come to America. If I was born in another nation, I would want to be here too.
Exactly.
But I still want to be here, and I don't want to leave.
But 55% of Democrats, Gary, say they would rather live somewhere else, but they're too cowardly to go act on it.
Well, they won't act on it because they say it, but they don't mean it. Right. And those who have left, actually, from what I understand, they've left, and then they've gotten there and they said, "Oh, this isn't what we thought it was," and then they're like, "Oh, I think maybe we want to come back." I think wasn't Rosie O'Donnell one of those who left and said, "Oh, maybe this isn't so great."
Well, yeah, she went, and by the way, she calls Trump a racist. And said that's one of the reasons she was fleeing the United States. She couldn't live under the thumb of an authoritarian, as she called him, racist. And you know where she chose to move? She chose to move to arguably the whitest nation on earth. She moved to Ireland.
Oh yeah.
She didn't move to an African nation. She didn't move to a South American nation. She didn't move to a place of brown and black people, which she's championing and saying that Trump and conservatives don't care for. She moved to probably outside of the Nordic countries. I guess Ireland is probably about as white as it gets. So I just find it hilarious.
Someday they are going to add TDS to the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. It's got to be added in the very next edition.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the holdup is, but
Gary, let me go back to Luke Rosiak, because I didn't see this piece, so I'm glad you just told us. Dylan found it, and now I clicked on the actual article in the Daily Wire from Luke Rosiak about Columbus. Columbus City Hall's X account has celebrated Juneteenth and Pride Month, but said nothing about America's 250th. In June 2023, the council passed a resolution to fly Somalia's flag. This is what you were talking about. In June of 2025, it passed a resolution to, quote, recognize and celebrate July 1st as Somali Independence Day in the city of Columbus. And then one last thing, and I want you to respond to it. Muhammad Ali, not the late boxer, a Somali American resident of Columbus and the host of something called the Somali Cultural Festival, told the left-wing Columbus Dispatch he's disappointed by unfairness and discrimination against Somali Americans. Quote, we celebrate Israel, Italian Americans, Irish heritage. Somali Americans are no different than any other community. It's campaign time. So-called leaders, they run out of ideas, initiatives, legislation to improve the life of the people. Instead, they want to fearmonger among their base. Still, Gary, I'm sorry, but no, Somali Americans are different than all of those other communities, because no other communities are ripping off the taxpayers of the United States of America and sending billions of dollars in cash back to another country. The Somali pirates are doing that. So it is very, very much different than any of those other nations that are recognized here in the United States.
Well, they're still not independent. They're depending on all their citizens living here in Ohio and sending the money back to them. They're still dependent on the United States.
Correct.
Let's give them true independence. Go there. You know, you know what the opposite of immigration with an I is immigration with an E. And we need to work on some emigration with the E. And these people just need to go. If they love Somalia that much, or any other country, if you love the country you came from, now listen, it's okay to love your people. I celebrate that. But if you think the nation you came from is better than the nation you live in, emigrate with an E. Exit, leave, go home. And you know what bothers me is in Columbus, you know, there's somebody, you know who they don't celebrate? Columbus.
Oh, of course not. Oh, yeah,
the person that
they're
they're named after, they can't even celebrate, but they're going to celebrate every other nation because they come in here and they, you know, I asked some very tough questions in one of our committees in Children and Human Services. You know, I asked the prosecutor some questions, and I asked one of the commissioners some questions about all this fraud that's taken place, and they couldn't give a decent answer. They wouldn't respond well because they don't want to. And I know for a fact that when people started looking into it, the answer was, oh, you're just picking on the Somalis. You're picking on a particular population. You just don't like them. And rather than really digging into it and saying, okay, let's just follow the facts. Where did the facts lead us? This is where the facts lead us. You know, you can come in here and be an exemplary citizen. You can come in here and take advantage of us. And the problem I have, Bob, with all this mass immigration is that, you know, America was built on a set of ideals. And, you know, I believe we ought to have reasonable immigration. You know, there are people who come into this country, they love this country, they contribute to this country, they assimilate into what it is to be an American. But when you have the mass immigration, they come in and they isolate themselves in their own people groups, and they continue in all of the cultural norms from wherever they came from, but they never assimilate. They never become American, and they still have that love and that fascination for their home country, whether it's Somalia or whether it's Haiti or whether it's somewhere else. And then, I mean, then they start electing their own people. And, you know, we've got two Somalis on the Democrat side of the aisle, Munira Abdulhalai and Muhammad Ismail. And, you know, he gives his campaign speeches in Arabic. You know, he's a nice guy to talk to. I've talked to him. I've had some pleasant conversations with him. But
well, isn't he the one that was on Somali TV? We played that clip a few different times. He's on
probably.
Somali national TV, telling them that it's working. Basically, there are many of us over here, and we are going to waive the Somali national debt, which means to get rid of the Somali national debt. How? By stealing money from the American taxpayers, and we're sending it back to Somalia. He's on television saying that.
I missed that. Part of me is glad I did, but part of me isn't. And so, you know, we need to condemn those kinds of things. And we need to publicly condemn those things, because this is about America. Do we love, you know, I mean, I'm a pastor. I love people. I don't care where you're from. In my church, we spend a lot of effort in missions. You know, and I have a lot of friends who are missionaries in other parts of the world. Some of them are underground in places like China. I had a friend who was kicked out of Russia for sharing the gospel in Russia. We care about people, but there is a right way and there's a wrong way to care about people, and to bring all of their problems, to import all of their problems, is not how we love them. It's not how we love America. Let's export freedom. Let's export the things that make America great to those nations. Let's not bring it in here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have to do this because I didn't know you didn't know about this. So Dylan, I'm gonna take over the screen share here from you, because I want Gary to see this. It's all right. I got it. Just let me go ahead and share this. Okay. So let's add this to the screen. I played every time I have a guest on that has never seen this before. You're not alone. I play this and their jaws drop, and there's a whole lot of anger. People who have never seen this before. So this is terrible video quality for whatever reason. You can see that it's going to pixelate up or whatever. It's this is one of many of these. But this is Mohammed Ismail, the state representative from the Columbus area, as Gary just talked about, on Somali State TV. And I want to say this is from 2 years ago. Do I have the date on this? Hold on, let me check it real quick to see if there's a date. No, I don't have the date on this one. Well, you know what? This particular video was posted in March of 24. So I was right, it was 2 years ago, but I just don't have the exact date of the Somali State television broadcast. But Gary, let's watch this together, and I'll pause it because it's obviously in Somali, so we just have to rely on the transcript at the bottom of the screen. Let's watch.
There
are two historic achievements that we have made. This, Gary, is when he's going to celebrate the celebration of Somalis in Columbus. The state of Ohio. The first thing is Saeed Mohammed Abdullah Hassan, Mad Mullah. He is the father of Somalia, whose dignity and honor is unequaled by any other Somali throughout the history. I've pioneered the idea of commemorating a movement even before I got elected. If anybody is worthy enough to have street named after him, it is Saeed Mohammed, whatever the heck it was. Saeed Mohammed something or another. Again, it's really grainy video. And it's history for us to have Columbus, Ohio after him. We have 20, or this is where it gets good. And when I say good, I mean horrible. We have 20 or more different political representatives talking about Somalia. And of course, Ilhan Omar is our representative at the federal level from the state of Minnesota. We have more than 10 representatives in the city and at the state level. We have established in tight-knit organization. We are all in one room, a group chat. Our main objective is to discuss things that concern Somalia. Gary, I'll let you respond to all of this, but I'm just going to emphasize some of these that I want you to respond to. He is a state representative, supposedly representing the people of his district and the state of Ohio, 11 plus million people, supposed to represent Ohio and America. He said they get together and all they discuss are things that concern Somalia. It's our country. It's our people. I'm stating the obvious here, but it's your country and it's your people. What the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. Why did he apply for American citizenship?
Right. Why then? Why would you do that? And here's the money line, literally the money line in a moment here. Our aim as a united front is to lobby for Somalia. These are American political elected officials, representatives lobbying for a foreign country. Helping waive Somalia's national debt and maritime crisis. Anybody who lives in Columbus, Ohio, please vote. We need your support. All right, Representative Gary Click, I've said as much as I can say about that. What say you?
I'm fuming. I would like to.
Uh-oh. Hold on, Gary. That was a glitch. We got to get Gary back on here. Gary, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I meant to close out the video page. See, this is why I have Dylan here. He's supposed to do this stuff, but I took it over from him, and then I ended up deleting you. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. I'm not that good looking anyway, and didn't get my hair combed or anything this morning. I'm up too early, but I'm fuming. That is not the point of serving in the legislature in Ohio, in America, in any elected office in America. Our goal is to represent the American people. Our goal is to represent Ohio, not Somalia, not Haiti, not any other nation. Now, we have some allies and we have some good relationships with other countries, and we don't live in this world alone. And I certainly believe in having some strategic allies like Israel. But that's a whole lot different than saying, you know, our main purpose is for another. I'm elected here to represent Somalia. No, you're elected to represent constituents in Columbus. Unfortunately, most of those constituents are Somalian, I think, and that's the problem with mass immigration.
Yeah, it is. And what I want to know, Gary, is what can be done. That's an admission on Somali state TV that it's our mission here to waive Somali's national debt. Now, I suppose we can look up the definition of waive, but I think we know what it means, WAIVE, to eliminate, to get rid of the Somali national debt. You're an American elected official and you want to rid Somali's national debt by telling people to vote for more of us here. That means you are doing what Somalis do, pirating booty and sending it back to your home country. If I'm reading that wrong, I will apologize, but I don't understand any other way to hear those words.
I'm more interested in getting rid of our national debt than Somalia's.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
We've got a problem, you know, I mean, that's something we need to do, you know, in the United States. The great thing about Ohio is that we have to have a balanced budget. That's required by our Constitution to have a balanced budget. It'd be nice to have that on the federal level, a balanced budget. But certainly I am more worried about the American debt than I am Somali debt. And it's really treasonous to be saying, I am here, I am elected here in a position, whether it's on the state, federal, city, local level, anything, that my purpose here is to represent a different sovereign nation than my own, than the one where I'm elected to represent. That's treasonous, if you ask me.
It is every bit of that. And you said it, Gary, I think correctly. This is what happens with mass immigration. And it's why we have to, and I wanted you to speak on this too. It's one of the reasons why I brought you on, in addition to the Somali flag situation in Columbus. But I wanted to ask you about your opinion on birthright citizenship and how dangerous that is for this country, because the gates have just been flown open to anybody who can come here on a temporary visa to come here while pregnant and have quote unquote American babies that will begin a chain migration event unlike anything we've ever seen over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever it is, years, because what Supreme Court said yesterday.
I don't know if you've seen this meme that the Supreme Court has also now decided that anyone born at the Olive Garden is now Italian.
I did see that. Babylon B. That's a Babylon B special.
Right. And that makes about as much sense. I just don't get our Supreme Court is just, they're bipolar. I mean, they make some really good decisions. They made a great decision about, men playing in women's sports, but then they turn around and goofed it up with this. It's like, are they trying to be fair between the people that are smart and the people that are dumb? It's like, create equity. Is this a participation trophy or something that they're giving out to some of these folks? It's ludicrous, and that is an insult. There's that meme. But seriously, it's an insult to our African American community. People talk about how the left is supposedly all about promoting equality and so forth, but they're not. They're insulting their base. In all reality, that provision came because there was slavery. There were people who were brought to this country against their will. They were held in bondage, and the 14th Amendment is saying, okay, we've got to rectify this. They were here, they were born here, they are under the jurisdiction of the United States. And if a Chinese national comes here, pops out a baby, they're not under the jurisdiction of the United States. They're not Americans. And you have to, if you come here and you have immigrated and you are working on your citizenship, you've got your citizenship, okay, that works for you. But just to say that anybody who by chance happens to be here and be born here with no heritage, no love for this nation, and you go back and as I understand it, I'm not an expert on this, so But I have heard that there are actually, Chinese people who come here for birth tourism, basically come here, have a baby, then go back, and that baby's got American citizenship, but they go back, they raise that child in China, they raise it as a Chinese child. It has no ties, no connections to America, but yet someday that child could come back here and run for elected office and vote to erase the Chinese national debt or whatever. I don't know.
No,
But,
that's exactly correct. That is exactly what this is. They take them back there, they raise them as Chinese communists, but they have American voting rights. And when they're 18, they come over here and they vote or run, and literally change our culture and put America's sovereignty in jeopardy. It is just one of the most bizarre decisions that I have ever seen. Is that Brandon Gill talking about it? I think that's what Dylan's trying to do there. Probably not a good one. But it is true that is what they're doing. Now, we keep focusing on China because they are, I think, the biggest purveyor of this, this tourism. But guess what? This works for Arab countries as well, including Muslim countries who are filled with people who do not believe in, the Judeo-Christian United States of America, whose mission it is to kill or conquer or convert all infidels, all non-Muslims. Those people can pop over here on visas as well, temporary visas, work visas, visiting visas, whatever, student visas, have their kids, and they are American citizens as well. So the ramifications of this, and I thought the job of the justices, I thought the job of the court was to interpret the Constitution, not to, they're saying, well, we're just following what the 14th Amendment says. But yeah, at the time of the Constitution was written, those who ratified that amendment said that this was indeed about the children of slaves. These children are born in the United States. They are American citizens. They don't have to get deported. They don't get kicked out because of the Civil War and an end to slavery. They get to live here as full American citizens. That's what this was about. And the justices are bastardizing that rather than interpreting it the way it was intended.
Well, that's where we go back to that basic precept of originalism. What did they mean when they wrote this?
Yeah.
And what did the founders have in mind? And we are just at this place where we are self-destructive when we come up with decisions like this. And I've always been, there's this whole thing that I'm sure you're familiar with as far as an Article 5 convention. And I've been on the fence on that because, I think there's some things. I know some conservatives who have some fears about it, but I also see some of the values in some of the things that we could change in our Constitution. And I think if we don't change it now, there is never going to be a better time than now. It's going to get worse.
I'm glad you brought that up, Representative Gary Click, because I've gone back and forth on that myself. I've talked to some people from the John Birch Society and others who want to do an Article 5, and over the years, I was kind of like, yeah, we should because of this, that, and the other. But I will tell you this: I want nothing to do with it now. Nothing. And the reason why is the Democrat Party is so radical and so overrun with anti-American fundamental transformation, as Barack Obama said, Democrats. You give them access to the Constitution, the only thing that could stop them would be Republicans. And I'm sorry, because you're a Republican representative, but the Republican Party is so weak and feckless right now, in my opinion, they would not stop them. They can't even, it's an 85-15 issue to pass the Save America Act, and we can't get Republicans to do that.
That's true.
You open up the Constitution to an Article 5 convention. I cannot imagine the crap that would be done to our Constitution, because the Democrats are together and united and will wield that power, while Republicans will splinter and say, no, I don't want anything to do.
To be fully transparent, I have not taken a position on it because at this point, I'm not going to decide until I have to decide. I'm going to keep weighing the options. But if there's one thing that makes me lean into it, it's like, okay, if we could correct this whole birthright citizenship thing and make sure that's absolutely 100% abundantly clear, it's like, no, that's not what it meant. And we don't even need it now because we don't have slavery here anymore. We don't have people that were, brought here against their will. We could just eliminate that section out of the Constitution.
And you know what?
It's not necessary.
But you know what we don't need to do again, because if you open it up for that, then then the Second Amendment gets opened up, and then they say, well, they also didn't mean machine guns because those didn't exist then. They meant muskets, okay, and all that. The First Amendment. Well, they didn't mean misinformation and propaganda. That part of free speech is going to have to be. We're going to use the First Amendment too. We can't give them that chance to do that.
Well, and I think
we can do Representative Click. Dylan, see if you can throw up Senator Marino from yesterday, number 11.
Love Bernie.
Yeah, and Bernie Marino said this on Laura Ingraham a couple of nights ago, that when we come back, or when the Senate comes back into session, he's going to introduce something that should be popular with Democrats, considering it was a Democrat idea. In fact, not just no, Dylan, come on, bro. I need you to be on your game here. Number 11 on the Thursday list. Number 11. Got to use the numbers. Can you get it, or you want me to do it? All right, Dylan's having a moment here. Okay, can you get the video there? The video. Dylan, we want to hear from Senator Marino. There we go. Okay, listen to this, Gary.
Harry Reid, a hardcore
Democrat
at the time, came up with a bill that had 10. Or in 1993, Harry Reid, a hardcore Democrat at the time, came up with a bill that had 10 points, one of which was clarifying that birthright citizenship does not apply to foreign-born parents. You have to be an American citizen on American soil for that to apply. This bill also, by the way, cracked down on the numbers of asylum seekers. It cracked down on human smuggling. It massively tightened our borders and really hit employers hard who hired illegals. I'm going to introduce, when I get back from recess on July 13th, the identical bill. And Laura, what it's going to do is highlight two things. The Democrats of today are nothing like the Democrats of 1993. And if they choose to reject a bill sponsored by their majority leader that they named an airport in Las Vegas after, then I think, to my Republican colleagues, we have no choice. We have to recognize that these Democrats want to systematically destroy this country. So what does that mean? We have to eliminate the filibuster and get this thing done.
There you go. So, Gary, your response to that idea?
Well, first of all, we have some great legislators here in Ohio and on the national level, but I just have to tell you, Bernie Marino is one of the best. He is just a breath of fresh air in the Senate, and I'm so glad that he's there. But absolutely, I'm looking forward to this. But what it also highlights is the Democrats have no core values. They go with the whims. They flow with whatever the culture is at the moment. Whatever the most depraved part of the culture is at the moment is what I should say. And whereas typically, and you're right, Republicans miss the mark often, but we're often the closest to the mark as well. And we have to, when you come into this position, you have to have some core values. Like, these are my non-negotiables. Doesn't matter if it's popular. I've often said that, I would rather lose with integrity than to win without it. To be honest, there's certain things I am not going to favor. I don't care. I'm not going to favor abortion. I am not going to favor, mutilating children for sex changes. I'm not going to favor boys playing in girls' sports. And there's so many other things. And these things are among that list. Is what is it that makes an American? What is it that entitles you to have a voice and to have a say in American policy? And, Bernie is just spot on right here. We have got to maintain our core values and not allow those who fluctuate with every whim. And that's what it highlights for them. Like, well, we believe that they used to believe in a wall. They used to believe in immigration policy. Now they don't. They used to believe that a boy's a boy and a girl's a girl. They used to believe in, marriage is a man between marriage is a union between a man and a woman. They've lost that. They keep shifting and they keep denigrating to the worst parts of society. And that's why we need to lean in harder to the best parts of society and the best parts of culture. And we need to stand firm. We need to stand like a solid rock on the culture and on the principles that America was founded upon as we celebrate 250. Because if we don't do that, there won't be another 250.
How are you spending Saturday?
Saturday, I'm going to be marching in a couple parades, celebrating this great country, talking to voters, getting out to meet the constituents, and then I'm headed out to. I've been invited to preach a special service down in Mainville, Ohio,
Nice.
at Mainville Baptist. I'm going to be preaching for their 250th celebration at their church.
Awesome. Well, Gary, it's so good to have you. I always appreciate the chance to talk to you and kick around some of these very important issues. And do me a favor, look into the video that I showed you from your colleague Ismail, because
definitely,
I feel like there is some kind of law being broken there when you are openly advocating for a foreign country over your country and promising to get rid of their debt by your work over here. That means you're sending money over there. I would love to see an investigation, but that's just me. Thank you very much for the time, Representative Click. Enjoy the 250th celebration of freedom, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Bob. God bless you, and God bless the USA.
Amen to that too. Thank you, sir. There you go. That's Gary Click, State Representative Gary Click. All right. I've got Colleen O'Donnell, who is a candidate for Ohio Supreme Court, queued up and ready to go. She's going to join me at the bottom of the hour at about 8:30 or so. I've got some time for some other topics that I want to get into, but I'm going to take a short break here first. After I remind you about our friend Mark King and keeping Medicare simple. Mark is a true patriot. He has been a loyal supporter of this show and my previous show on terrestrial radio. And I have been very, very happy to recommend him to scores of seniors. Because if you've got questions about Medicare, this is the man with the answers. He's been doing Medicare for almost 40 years. When you do something for almost 4 decades, you're doing it right and you're treating people right. And that's what he does. If you're on Medicare already, let's find out if you are getting all of the services you're entitled to. Let's find out if you can get a lower premium and still get the same services. Call Mark, 440-832-8936. If you're not on Medicare yet, but maybe you're aging into it, you got to find out what the right plan is for you to start. 440-832-8936. The website is very user-friendly and easy to follow. It's keepingmedicaresimple.com. You can see that on the screen, keepingmedicaresimple.com. Mark is a foundational partner of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. For that, I am deeply appreciative. And you can show him your appreciation as well by calling him, helping yourself as well. Call 440-832-8936. He is the man that I trust when it comes to Medicare, and you should too. All right, I'm going to take a short time out here. You know Ice Ice Baby. Vanilla Ice made everybody dance in 1991 when that song came out. 92 maybe? I don't know. Ice Ice Baby has been replaced by Ice Ice Agent.
Yo, ICE, let's kick it. Ice, Ice, Agents. Ice, Ice, Agents. All right, stop. Against the wall and listen. ICE is here on a lawful mission. Don't move, because we're holding you tightly. Rounding up aliens daily and nightly. Will we ever stop? Oh, hell no. Don't make us come for you. Just go. If they extreme, we take them down to the ground. Tear gas is ready when the mob comes around. Damn, they like to scream and shout, but none of them knows what they're talking about. Deadly, they coming at us like the enemy. They play the race card, facing down a felony. All the invaders, you best get away. We rolling up quick, we not here to play. If there's an alien, yo, we'll find him. Homeboy can run, but we're right up behind him. Ice, Ice, Agents. We are the Ice, Ice, Agents. We are the Ice, Ice, Agents. We are the Ice, Ice, Agents. Now that the border is tighter, cartel smuggles run a little bit lighter. Coming at you hard, we hit with precision. Trying to resist us, bad decisions. Raid them, illegal operations. Kicking fugitives out this nation. Let's move, time to pick up the tempo. We gotta roll there outside Home Depot. Rolling with the local 5-0. With the blue lights on just to let them know. Karen's on the roadside holding up the hate signs. Did we stop? No, we just kept flying, moving on. Pursuing all the bad guys. We must have left and they scatter like mayflies. The block was dead, yo, so we continue to Tampon's Place, Tim Walls Avenue. Aliens all in the sanctuary city. Activists in the way begging for pity. So sad, cause we not here to play. Violate our laws and you're going away. Ice, Ice, Agents. Citizens, they're tired of the game, sick of open borders, hearing your names don't move, cause we're kicking you out. Massive deportations, what we're talking about, keeping our families safe, wearing that mask, and if lefties don't like it, they can all kiss our ass if you cross our border. Yeah, we're coming, check out the badge, yeah, you better start running. ICE, ICE agents. We are the ICE, ICE agents. We are the ICE, ICE agents. ICE, ICE agents. Yeah, we are ICE. Yo, man, let's get them out of here. Back home to their mothers. ICE, ICE agents, let's roll. 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 Let's roll. ICE, ICE agents, let's roll. Let's roll. Let's roll.
I'll tell you what, it has never been more important to back ICE and to support Customs and Border Patrol and protect this country than before. It's never been more important than now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because of birthright citizenship, Stephen Miller said it right. Stephen Miller said we now have to monitor much, much more closely, even than we were over the last year or year and a half since Trump came back into office. We've got to monitor who's here illegally, who's here legally but on a temporary visa. Who are we giving temporary visas to? Student work visas, visit a tourist visa, whatever it is that they have to come into this country. We have to watch them more closely than ever before and decide who gets one and who doesn't. Because if they're coming in here pregnant, there's a very good chance that they're here to drop an anchor in the form of a baby. But to drop an anchor into the United States that will enable their child that will make them an American citizen and will enable them when they're 21 to start chain migration, start bringing family members over as well, and to completely, overtake this nation. Again, great replacement. It's a real thing. So we need to make sure that ICE is supported. We need to make sure that CBP is supported, Homeland Security is supported, and we need, as Bernie Moreno said, to work on some laws to limit the number of people and which people can come to the United States. If they're going to give them citizenship when they pop out kids here, we need to make sure we know who's here at all times. That's just the reality. And that's not racist. It is simple survival. And every other country in the world, I think, pretty much every other country in the world would do the same thing. Birthright citizenship is insane. Allowing people to just come and go as they please, have babies, call them Americans, and change completely the makeup of the United States or the makeup of another country. In my broader example, it's just, I don't know, it's insane. I'm going to check out the chat real quick. Don't forget, I've got Colleen O'Donnell running for Ohio Supreme Court Justice coming up at the bottom of the hour. But I'm going to check in the chats to see, because I did notice, and I actually just made a comment to somebody about the idea of the Constitutional Convention, or not the Constitutional Convention, an Article 5 Convention of the states to potentially amend the Constitution. And there were a lot of people who had some things to say about that. So let me pop in. Lisa, to Big Jake, it's difficult to amend the Constitution, but we truly need the 14th Amendment. Simply put, the Bill of Rights applies only to the federal government without it. Okay, fair point made. Again, here's Charlie G. We must begin the amendment process. I'm going to disagree. Lisa, again, the 14th Amendment is used by the U.S. Supreme Court to apply the protections in the Bill of Rights to the states. Fair point as well. I'm trying to skip over some of the other greetings and so on and so forth. I always appreciate you guys, but let's see. The U.S. is definitely the greatest thing mankind has ever done. However, God creating existence, human consciousness, and raising his son is just a little more important. I did read that one before. My apologies. The Constitution needs to be understood with the Declaration of Independence. Yep, hit that as well. Ohio Value Voters has endorsed Justice O'Donnell, and we live Gary. I think it must mean love Gary. That's good to know. God had a role in the founding of this nation. Absolutely, he did. B. Morgan agrees, 100%. As Aaron Lewis' song says, give back my country, I will help them pack. Yeah, the ones who want to get out, or the ones who say that they want to live somewhere else. Yeah, let's help them. Trader Doug, we put up a brand new flag, meaning my wife. Good for you. Show it proudly. The Democrats, what did I say at the beginning of the show? 27% of Democrats plan to display the American pride flag, an American flag, I should say, with American pride on the 4th of July. Let's see. I have read the Declaration of Independence, high school American history, made it part of the course. The Constitution was studied senior year in government class. We had to know all the U.S. president's party in years, all right? And regurgitation by memorization is one thing, but applying the principles of the Constitution and of the Declaration, obviously another thing altogether, and schools don't pay anywhere near enough attention to that. Let's see. Most presidents were not consequential, but Trump needs the last spot on Mount Rushmore. Yeah, I don't think anybody's being added to Mount Rushmore, but I understand your point. Junior year American history instilled a love of country. It was a class I really enjoyed. Glad to hear that. I'm trying to fast forward a little bit here. What does Jones say? Because we have a bunch of brainwashed fools voted for all this crap. So crazy. I love America, with a whole bunch of flags. I'm with you. Appreciate that message. Assimilation, Joanne says. Assimilation is the most important part of living in America. We are a melting pot where people work together for the American dream. Yeah, and if you're coming here, that's what I said before. If you're coming here waving the flag of the country you just left, it's insanity. I love, it'd be like, why would you leave the place that you love to go to a place that you like less? So much so that you're waving that flag and wishing, I wish I could still be here. Why'd you leave? Go back. Self-deport. Anybody coming into this country waving the flag of another country should automatically be banned from coming here. Bye. See ya. No. If your loyalty is with Mexico, go to Mexico. If your loyalty is with Guatemala, go to Guatemala. If your loyalty is with Iceland, go back to Iceland. I mean, stop. I've yet to read Gad Saad's Suicidal Empathy book, but must read it. The Parasitic Mind, fabulous book. Oh, you read The Parasitic Mind. Okay. Let's see again. I'm trying to. Oh, here we go. The Somali people look very different than other African-looking people. This probably proves that they live in a closed society. I don't know that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to comment on that because I don't know what that means. I do know. I can't even comment there. I was going to say, because we're talking about movies. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to say, though, is there's something different about the Somali culture than most of the other African cultures, at least by our experience here in the United States, because it's not other cultures that are coming here and pirating, and stealing and defrauding and openly and brazenly doing so, like like Ilhan Omar. Like Ilhan Omar, and then like Mohammed Ismail, the Democratic representative, state representative, who said, yeah, we're waiving Somalia's national debt. We're here. We need more people here voting for us so that we can advocate for Somalia. There is something different about that culture, and I'm not going to say it's an appearance. There's something different about that culture and behavior. Let's see. What else do we have? As a member of the legislators, will they impeach or expel him from office? There are constitutional levers to remove this guy. There should be, and I don't know the answer. Deb asks, so why is nothing done? That guy lied on citizenship to pledge allegiance to the United States. Correct. How is he a lawyer? Where is the DOJ and FBI monitoring that chat? What the hell? That's a great question, too. And you know why they won't? Because monitoring that chat of Somalis, all talking with other Somalis about advocating for Somalia and not America and not Ohio, to monitor that chat would be racist. You can't do that. They're of African heritage. They're untouchable. You want to know why? George Floyd overdosed. Don't you remember? We can't be looking at people and trying to decide what their motives are, even when they say it in broad daylight and say it out loud and clearly on television. We can't do that. 3 new constitutional amendments: birthright, election integrity, and balanced budget. Darby said no. Republicans are not strong enough to prevent Democrats. This is exactly the point I made to Representative Click. Not strong enough to prevent Democrats from making changes that will have permanent and drastic effects on America's culture. That is correct. The birthright citizenship, Victor says, needs to be figured out one way or another. Well, it's been figured out, at least in terms of what the Supreme Court says. It can mean anybody for any reason giving birth on American soil. What we have to figure out is how to respond to it with laws. Legislators are already leaping into action and figuring out what they can do. The State Department is probably going to be reworking, at least they better be, reworking and revising qualifications to come to the United States, even on a visa, even on a temporary visa to come and visit or to come and study and so forth. They're going to have to make sure they know who is coming in and what their condition is. Obviously, if they're 4, 5, 6 months pregnant, they're coming here on a 6-month visa. Nope, sorry, not happening. Bye-bye. Can't do it, because the goal here is not to populate the United States with foreigners who do not have fealty to the United States and that do not have loyalty to or are not under the jurisdiction thereof, the United States. Wish Rep Click was my rep. Let's see. I had a nice Zoom with Pastor Click about SB 174. The state constitution has levers to remove this rep from office, either by expulsion or impeachment. It doggone well should, but you know what that's going to look like and sound like. That's racist. You know this. This is how they do it. Constitutional convention is the ultimate Trojan horse for Dems. Yes, Sherry, it is. That's the reason I've completely shifted my position on this. I was talking, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago to John Birch Society members, who all, I know their motives are pure, but I was saying, yeah, we really should. We should get, an Article 5 convention of the states. We have to fix this, and this. But when you open up the convention, you open up the entire Constitution to amendments, to either add amendments, strike amendments, reword or revise amendments, and so forth. And that is something that is just too dangerous. We cannot risk it. The Democrats have more power than you realize, and there are more. Let me ask you a question. Speaking of Trojan horses, do the Democrats have any dinos? Is that a term? Do we have Republicans infiltrating Democrat politics, getting elected as Democrats, but then governing as Republicans, which is what we call rhinos, Democrats cosplaying as Republicans, like Mike DeWine, our governor, runs as a Republican, governs as a Democrat. It's where the word rhino came from. Republican in name only. Republican in action? No, not a chance. Republican in name only. Does it happen in the reverse? I'm not aware of any. I mean, Democrats know who we call rhinos. Democrats know we call Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Tom Tillis, Mike DeWine, John Kasich. They know the term rhino. These are people who are Republicans in name, but govern as Democrats, vote as Democrats. If Democrats know that about us, wouldn't we know if there were dinos? Are there any Democrat elected officials who govern like rhinos? There could be. I'm just not aware of it. I've never heard the word dino in political discourse, online, in legacy media, in social media. I've never heard it used anywhere else. I find that fascinating. Because there is, that is an infiltration. It's a Trojan horse, if you will. And I don't think we go over into theirs and are able to make any changes like that. Birthright citizenship is fraud, plain and simple, and it dilutes the value of citizenship for the rest of us. On my street in Broadview Heights, 36 houses, only one flying flag, 2 pride flags, and 1 upside down flag, 2 teachers who graduated from Notre Dame. Wow. Holy cow. There's a lot more good stuff here, but I'm going to end the chat session for now anyway, because I want to clear the decks and make sure that we have room for Colleen O'Donnell, former judge and now Supreme Court Justice candidate Colleen O'Donnell is going to join us here after I take a short time out and remind you of Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. Tell you this every day because Charlie is a foundational sponsor and supporter of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. But I tell you this also just as a friendly tip. Find yourself a mechanic you can trust who isn't going to overcharge you, and then hold on to them for dear life because they are rare. And you know how expensive car repairs can be. If it's a repair or routine maintenance, you go to the wrong person, they're going to charge you for things you don't need. They're going to charge you extra labor they did not do. And you're going to end up with this big bill for hundreds of dollars or more that you shouldn't have had. Call Charlie. First thing you do, call 216-470-0170. Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood, the place for Northeast Ohio. If you're watching us in another state right now, this means nothing to you, but boy, oh boy, if you're in Northeast Ohio, you need to take advantage of it. Find this man. He's MAGA, he's America First, and he gives you discounts if you are also, meaning first responders, veterans, military, active military, and concealed carry license holders. If you fall in that category, those categories, you get 10% off everything you have done at Charlie's Auto Repair. Call that number 216-470-0170. Call Charlie. He is going to take great care of you. And I am going to take a very short time out here before I come back and introduce former judge, Colleen O'Donnell.
Vest on, boots laced, another name on the paper, another hard case. Got a wife back in Lubbock, kids in their Sunday best. I ain't some villain in a movie, I'm a man doing my best. You can scream in my face, you can block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody saved today. You hold that sign, I hold this line in my hands. While you're chatting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw the line in the sand. Saw you playing for cameras, shoving phones in my crew, spitting words like traitor, like you know what we go through. When you circle that transport, like it's some kind of game, there's a scared little girl in the backseat, you don't even know her name. You can scream in my face, you can block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody saved today. You hold that sign, I'll hold this line in my hands. While you're chanting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw a line in the sand. You say you care about people, then you shove them into harm's way. You turn a bus into a battlefield. I'm just trying to get them home today. Call me every name you can think of, I'll still show up when it hits the fan. When the dust clears, when fear's near, we'll see who really ran. You can scream in my face, you can block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody saved today. You hold that sign, I'll hold this line in my hands. While you're chanting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd,
All right, it is a special treat that we have for you at this time on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Joining me now is Colleen O'Donnell, who is an extraordinary jurist. She has been a judge in a number of different venues, the most recent of which is, to me, the most interesting. She is a former Franklin County Common Pleas judge, but forget about that for a moment. She left Ohio and went to serve this country on the border in Laredo, Texas, to serve as a federal immigration judge. And there she was, well, taking no prisoners. She was, in fact, turning people away and saying, we don't want you here anymore. Now, that was not exactly her position because she was a judge and she did her job, but it was such an amazing thing to find out that she is back in Ohio and she is now running for the Ohio Supreme Court. So I'm going to call her former Judge O'Donnell, because I'm not allowed to call her current Judge O'Donnell, but we will give her all of the deferential respect for the position as she now strives to serve this great state on our Supreme Court. So, Colleen, former Judge O'Donnell, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join you.
All right. So it looks like there's a little bit of a lag time, I think, between me speaking to you and you hearing it on the other end. So if we talk over each other, I do apologize for that in advance. But wow, what a place to start. I want to talk about judges in general. I want to talk about Supreme Courts. There are some things that happened on the federal Supreme Court this week and last week that I would love to get your thoughts on. But the fact that you served as an immigration judge down there on the border when this country is still and was for 4 solid years, an open borders policy, country, and just millions and millions of people coming in, and courts like yours probably being overwhelmed as you tried to process and figure out as an immigration judge what was allowed and what was not. So I'm just fascinated by that fact. Tell me how you went from Franklin County, Columbus, Ohio, down to the border.
Yes. So unfortunately, the short answer is I lost a re-election in Franklin County. If I had my druthers, I would have won that re-election in 2022 and still be serving on that bench. But life throws you curveballs. And as I try to teach my kids and set an example for them alongside my husband, I think your character is not defined by the fact that disappointment befalls you, but rather defined by what you do after the disappointment occurs. And so, because of course, the timing of elections, I lost my race in November and you finish the term into January. I had a couple of weeks there built in to look around and try to decide what I wanted my next chapter to be or to say. And so this was at a time at the tail end of 2022, when, as you mentioned, Bob, we had an open, porous southern border, and we saw on the news almost daily, maybe actually daily, throngs of people coming into the United States across that southern border. And, it struck me as a national crisis. And the plea from our government was, we as a United States are going to need more individuals who will step up and serve as immigration judges because these asylum claims are essentially piling up at the southern border. And so I decided to step up and contribute to being some part of the solution to what I perceived as this national crisis.
And that is wonderful that you recognize that and that you stepped up. And I want to talk about how much of a minority that you represent. And what I mean by that in terms of is in terms of judges that are actually concerned with enforcing the law rather than becoming activists on the bench and trying to basically ignore the law or allow a lot of other people to ignore the law. I'm going to put up your webpage, and this is your campaign page, o'donnellforohio.com, o'donnellforohio.com. So people probably can't read that very clearly. So I'm going to read a portion of your bio there because this is what's really important. Most recently, Colleen served as U.S. immigration judge in Laredo, Texas, where she handles illegal entry and asylum cases during the height of the border crisis. She enforced the law as written, never once granted asylum, never once granted asylum. I want to emphasize that, and consistently ordered the removal of illegal aliens from our country. And then before that, she spent nearly a decade on that Franklin County Common Pleas Court. But the reason I wanted to share that, Colleen, is the most important part of that for me is it said you never once granted asylum, and yet you obviously followed the law as written. I kind of made a quip and a little, just a figure of speech when I said she took no prisoners. You also did not allow our country to be overrun with quote unquote asylum seekers as evidenced by that bio. So can you tell me what your approach was as a judge? You have to hear cases individually, independently of one another, and make decisions. But you obviously had, your belief in sovereignty and the rule of law. Can you tell me what went into how you evaluated each of those individual cases and ended up not allowing a single asylee to come in?
Sure. So I first and foremost studied the asylum law and had to commit to understanding what the elements are that a respondent must establish in a matter where he or she is seeking asylum, and understand what it really takes to be granted asylum. Certainly, learning the nuts and bolts of the asylum law and the elements and such are equally as important as always keeping in mind the judge's oath to approach every single case with an open mind and to interpret the immigration law with integrity and with impartiality, and to have no preconceived notions about how any single case might ultimately be resolved. And so I felt fortunate and prepared, coming off of nearly 10 years of judicial service in Franklin County, the trial court here in Columbus, where I was very comfortable understanding that oath and having that impartial mindset and an open mind when hearing the evidence from, in this case, the federal government, the Department of Homeland Security, and from the respondent himself or herself. These are civil proceedings. It's not criminal. And so the case is initiated when the federal government files or issues an NTA, a notice to appear, to the respondent, alleging that for one or multiple reasons, the government believes you, respondent, are removable or deportable from the United States for, these certain set of reasons. And so I was very comfortable with how that process works in the immigration courts. Like I say, those are civil proceedings. The immigration judge is not only responsible to be the arbiter of evidence, what is admissible and what is not, testimony and evidence alike, but the judge is also the fact finder in those cases. There is no jury. So it's imperative that the judge have this open mind and listen to the evidence and the testimony intently from both sides. Now, as a result of my service, I never granted asylum a single time. I must say I would have granted the respondent asylum if I had been assigned to the case where the respondent claimed asylum and he or she had sufficient evidence to establish that such relief was warranted. And so in my experience, I never had that case come along. So I would sign the removal order or the deportation order, inform the respondent I was doing that, and ask he or she if he chose to appeal the court's decision. And there weren't even very many cases where the respondent
Want to know why Japanese never get diabetes? While the diabetes industry is trying to ban apple cider vinegar, they use it to pee out blood sugar.
elected to appeal the court's decision. But that's how those cases went. And if the case came along, I would have granted it.
So that's really important to hear. And the reason I'm bringing this up in the way that I am too, you describe yourself on your campaign page as a proven constitutional conservative with decades of judicial experience. Are judges allowed to call that? Obviously you are, but explain to me that aspect of this. Whenever I refer to, for example, the United States Supreme Court, I talk about its makeup. And people say, well, it's a 6-3 conservative majority right now. And I always bristle at that. I don't like to think of it as a conservative versus a liberal, a makeup of the court, because independent, arbiters of justice, jurists, you're supposed to not really have an ideology. It's supposed to be a fealty to the law, to the Constitution, and to either federal law or state law. So I refer to the 6 members, well, I used to before Judge Coney Barrett did what she did yesterday. You don't have to say anything about that unless you want to. But I refer to them as originalists rather than conservatives, because I feel like that's what their mission is. That's what they kind of, their philosophy, not an ideology, but a philosophy is the original, writing of the Constitution, the original intent of the framers, the original intent, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas I think the 3 that some would call the liberal wing of the court are activists, is what they are. They don't have fealty to the actual language of the Constitution and of the law. They like to make it up as they go. They are almost legislating from the bench. So it's a long question for you, but as a judge, and you call yourself a constitutional conservative, how do you evaluate philosophy, judicial philosophy versus ideology?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a judicial philosophy question. And you mentioned the term originalism is what you think of. We often in these same contexts will hear folks describe themselves as a textualist or an originalist, which is to say, and I do subscribe to this judicial philosophy, which is to stay, number one, in the judicial lane, which is to interpret laws, statutes, whatever the governing issue in the case is, interpret those words, not ignore them and rewrite them because the court or the jurist doesn't like the result that it requires the court to reach. So we're committed to staying in the judicial lane to interpret the law rather than ignore it, rewrite it, and legislate from the bench. And then specifically, when we're interpreting the law or the provision at issue, to give the meaning to every word or phrase in that statute, the same meaning those words or phrase had at the time they were enacted or written initially. And so, for example, I don't believe the Constitution is a living, breathing document. Rather, I believe the words had the meaning in such and such a year, whether it was a statute enacted last year or our Constitution. The words written at the time and the context of that time give the judges in real time today the context and the understanding of those words and phrases to allow the judge to interpret and resolve the issue at hand.
That's a great answer. And that's what I was looking for. And I really appreciate that. So when it comes to judicial activism, can you give me your opinion on how much power, and I know we're talking, and we're going to talk specifically about your race for the Ohio Supreme Court. I want people to understand that, but I'm just talking about the judicial branch in general. How much power is too much power for a judge? For example, federal judges, and I'm going to speak specifically into your lane here because of your work down there on the border as an immigration judge, but Judge Boasberg, who wanted a plane filled with illegal alien gang members and terrorists and so on and so forth, turned around in the air. You bring them back here right now when they were being deported. We keep seeing federal judges in district courts making rulings that affect the entire country as opposed to just that jurisdiction. And they're substituting their judgment oftentimes for the executive. So, we are a 3 separate but co-equal branch system of government, but it feels like sometimes the judicial branch has a little bit more power than everybody else. Sometimes too much power, in my view. What's yours?
I would say generally, initially, I'll say this, just for the audience's edification. A federal district court judge, like we've mentioned here, is an Article 3 judge who is appointed by the president and essentially invested or instituted onto the bench with the advice and consent of the Senate. They serve lifetime tenures, presuming good behavior. Immigration judges, however, are Article 2 judges. They're not appointed by the president. They do not receive the advice and consent of the Senate, and they don't serve lifetime terms. So I think the distinction is worth mentioning. I'll say that. I think the traditional, elementary school civics understanding we all have of the three separate co-equal branches of government, each with checks and balances on themselves and therefore then on each other, are critically important to our system of government and governance working efficiently and appropriately. And so again, as a part of my judicial philosophy, it is my understanding and belief that, as a former judge and a prospective judge, it's my commitment to simply interpret the law or the provision at issue as enacted by the relevant body, and to not pass judgment, to sort of compartmentalize or to check my own emotions or preferences about that law at the courthouse steps. I think to do otherwise, to engage in some of this judicial activism or to legislate from the bench, it really does a disservice to the jurisdiction that judge serves, because it creates confusion about the state of the law. It then creates cost for the litigants to work through the appellate system and say, wait a minute, what really is the law? If this judge has interpreted this law in a way that's never been interpreted before. So then we got to work through the appellate system, which of course is costly in terms of time and money and the stress of the litigants. And it leaves folks in the lurch until the law is ironed out. And so it creates unnecessary chaos and expense. And I think it's a troublesome policy.
How much more of that judicial activism that you're talking about have we seen in recent years compared to maybe a decade ago? And I say that politically, sorry, but not. I think what has happened since President Trump became president in 2016, and then of course everything that has happened since, and now that he's back again, there seems to be a decided attempt by a lot of these activist federal district court judges to rule against him and to be blatant in their bias. Many of them have said things in some of the rulings that indicate that fact, that they're essentially ruling against him, not necessarily always within the best with the best intentions, I guess, given their position as a judge. Do you feel like this has increased a lot in these last 10 years, or am I overseeing it that way? Because I do have a political ideology of my own. It is in line largely with the president's. It is in line largely with the Republican Party. And I feel like these activist judges have gone off the rails in recent years, much more so than previously. Is it just me, or do you see it too?
It's hard to say. I do think, I don't want to disparage any sitting judge. I have a lot of respect for members of the judiciary on the state and the federal level, at the trial court, appellate, all the way up. I understand that this work is challenging and how critically important it is for.
My electric bill went from $180 to almost $400. And honestly, that's when I started getting worried.
For every constituent living in these jurisdictions. I haven't done any sort of formal or informal polling on how frequently we've seen, departures from precedent and maybe activism at hand. I do wonder.
Well, there are statistics, if I may, and I'm going to give you a very loose statistic because I don't have it in front of me, but I talked about it when some of those things came up. That, for example, during the 4 years of Biden and the 8 years of Barack Obama, the number of times that federal district court judges issued stays or injunctions against an executive order was like 4. I'm not even kidding, like 4. And with President Trump, it was like 175. It's very loose. I can't remember it. I'm paraphrasing to make the point, though, that it's an extraordinary number compared to previous presidents. And I'm just, again, wondering, it's kind of like what I started to say to you a short while ago at the beginning. How much of a minority are you in as somebody who actually tries to stay 100% balanced and eyes on the law, eyes on the text, eyes on the governing document at that time, when so many of your colleagues, I know they're federal, you're not, we're not talking about, where you are now. But those individuals, when you look at numbers like that, indicate that they have no interest really in being independent arbiters and interpreters of the law.
Sure. I'm not familiar with these numbers, but I have no reason to disbelieve you how you're remembering them. At the very least, I would just offer that it's really regrettable. Again, taking your numbers for what they are, and you wonder if the 24-hour news cycle plays into, they get maybe more coverage and more notoriety, and does that encourage more, or what does that do? Does then folks want to swing the pendulum the other way? I just would offer that I think it's regrettable. If it occurs one time, it's too many, and I just offer my commitment to not subscribe to those sorts of judicial philosophies and those sorts of trends or patterns we might be seeing over time. I just think, as I said a moment ago, it's inappropriate. It's inconsistent with a judge's oath to interpret the laws of the land with impartiality. And I think it does a disservice to the state of the law. And certainly, as someone who worked in private practice at a law firm, it frustrates litigators and lawyers who want to advise their clients who are in some sort of predicament. Should we resolve this case soon, or should we take it all the way to trial? Well, we have to look at case law and previously interpreted case law to efficiently and accurately advise our clients. And so it really frustrates the whole system every single time we have an activist judge who's willing to depart from the judicial role as distinct from the legislative role.
I've interviewed, I cannot tell you how many legislators in my career and how many executives. Very few judges, though. And the reason why is because typically there are things you guys can address and things you can't address. So if I overstep with a question, I get it totally. Like I said, I don't interview a lot of judges. It's a little bit more difficult for you guys. So I totally respect that. And I think that was a very, very, very honest answer. So I appreciate that. Let's get more personal now. You want to be on the Ohio Supreme Court. Was this in your blood? Given the fact that your father spent 15 years on the Ohio Supreme Court, were you always destined to be a judge? Was that a goal?
No, certainly not. I am the third of 4 children. And so just growing up around the dinner table, this was a very organic, natural topic of conversation. My dad's judicial service started at the trial court, the Common Pleas Court in Cuyahoga County, where I was born and raised and where my parents still live. He then went to the Intermediate Appellate Court, the 8th District, and then served on the Supreme Court. And so we as children had a really up close view, and I think developed a very natural, organic respect for hardworking public servants, particularly in the judiciary. I'd be remiss to not mention my mom is a retired nurse. So we had a good deal of discussion about her career as well. But as it turns out, of the 4 children in our family, 3 of us ended up going to law school. I think it was, nobody ever said I have to go to law school and this is the only path for me. It just opened our eyes and gave us such an understanding of what courts do and what they don't do, and the decorum and the pace. Getting in to watch court proceedings in elementary school is such a unique opportunity. And so we had a familiarity and a comfort level from a young age. As far as me following in my dad's judicial footsteps specifically, that was not necessarily on my radar, and certainly not number 1 on the list. I was honored and delighted when I graduated from law school at Case Western Reserve to start serving in the Ohio Attorney General's office as an assistant attorney general. And then you know how life unfolds. You have different opportunities come across your desk, and I ultimately then moved on and clerked for a federal judge. Then I joined a law firm in Columbus and had a terrific experience there. And it really was when the trial court judge in Columbus announced he'd be retiring in the middle of his term, that folks encouraged me to apply. I didn't say, I'd like to apply, will you help me, or can you advise me? They told me, you could be a good fit for this. You have some great criminal and civil litigation experience. You've been volunteering on judicial campaigns for who knows how long. Why don't you apply? And so while I never set out or, had a laser focus on doing it. I am grateful for every day I had the opportunity to serve as a judge, and it would be a great honor to be able to return to the bench and serve all Ohioans from the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the and that's a wonderful history and a great explanation about how you got your foot into the judicial door, if you will. It's a 6-1 court right now. If you win, and if Judge Hawkins retains his spot, right, as I understand it, it'll be 7-0. 7-0 in terms of Republicans on the Ohio Supreme Court. Ohio Republicans basically have swept every statewide office, and now it would be 7-0. Is that okay? And I say that semi tongue in cheek because I'm like, heck yes, that's okay. That's what I want. I don't want radical Democrat judges on our Supreme Court, quite frankly. But I know if it was 7-0 Democrat, I would be saying that's not okay. You can't. I mean, there has to be some sort of a balance on the court. So, trying to be fair here, is that okay if we have a 7-0 Republican to Democrat majority on that court?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes, I do think it's okay, because Ohioans express their opinions and their preferences at the ballot box, and that is their right. And we are so fortunate to live in a country in the great state of Ohio where that right is protected and with all ferocity. And, you know, frankly, in recent history, the last, maybe if we go back 20 years or so, Ohio voters have been offered the opportunity to no longer vote for their judges, and different ideas have been proposed. You know, should state court judges be appointed perhaps by a governor, perhaps by some commission of citizens from across the state? And the voters of Ohio have said resoundingly they want to retain their right to elect the judges that serve them. And so I do think it's okay. And I think, you know, the voters will elect the candidates who they think will best serve them and the state of the law.
Yeah, that's and I agree with you. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of nod to the fact that it is going to be a 7-0 court if you are successful, and I certainly hope that you are. What would you say would be your first goal or order of business? What is the most important driving thing for you to get onto that court?
You know, it would be
There's one simple beauty hack that anyone can use to reverse wrinkles.
a huge honor to join the court. I have great respect for all members of the court. I've spoken over the phone and or had coffee with all members of the court other than Justice Bruner. I thought under the circumstances, it may not be received well, although I get along really well with Justice Bruner. She was an appellate judge while I served in the trial court, and I like her very much. I get along with her just fine. For me, I'm in the race because of a judicial philosophy, which I think is distinct from hers. But if I were fortunate enough to win and join the court, probably my first order of business would be strengthening or, you know, highlighting and emphasizing collegiality on the court and developing the relationships with the court. I don't think it should be presumed that if every member of the court is from the same political party, that all the decisions from the court will come out 7-0. Certainly, we just saw that with the U.S. Supreme Court. You've alluded to that a few moments ago, but
Right.
I have great respect, as I said, for the members of the court, and we don't see all the decisions coming out of the court even today. They're not all 6-1. These are intelligent people who respect each other and can say reasonable minds can reach different conclusions. And we're still going to be professionals, consummate professionals, and, you know, be good colleagues at the end of the day. And it would be an honor to be a part of such an esteemed group of professionals.
I know you're on a time budget here, so I got about 3 minutes left, but you grabbed me a second ago when you talked about you have great respect for Justice Bruner, but you guys have very different judicial philosophies. Can you give me a minute on that? We talked a little bit about your judicial philosophy, but compare it so that voters, in particular the most likely conservative Republicans who are in this audience, know exactly what the difference is between you and Jennifer Bruner and why it's so important.
Sure. Very quickly, I think it's more of the exercising judicial restraint and staying in the judicial lane and rejecting the idea of legislating from the bench. In my judicial philosophy, I think Justice Brunner has issued decisions, dissents, concurrences, what have you, that demonstrate more of a willingness to depart and consider perhaps legislating from the bench. I think we just saw last month in May, the Hill versus LaRose decision came out where Justice Brunner authored, I believe, a concurrence in judgment only. And at paragraph 35, in fact, she expressed her opinion that while the court generally demurs to the General Assembly, under certain circumstances where equity might require, such deference isn't required, and perhaps a different resolution could be reached. So it's just one example of where the philosophies diverge.
That's a great example. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for, because I want people to not see this race like so many others is just down ballot. President Trump isn't on the ballot this time. He was in 2024, and he won the state of Ohio 3 straight times by at least 8 points, this last time by 12 or 13 or whatever it was. And that certainly did have a huge impact on all of the other races down ballot. He's not there this time. I want people to know they've got to come out to vote for races like yours and for people like you, specifically to get there for that. Not just, I'm going to go vote for my favorite big executive race and then I'll go down, et cetera, et cetera. I want them to know what you're doing and why it's important to get there to vote for you, not just as a part of a down ballot slate, but to get out there and vote for you. So in our last minute here, give a pitch to maybe moderate Republican voters or just voters, in general in the state of Ohio, why you should be on that Ohio Supreme Court, Colleen.
Sure, thank you. I'm not running to serve Republicans or Democrats or independents. I'm really running to serve the rule of law and the Constitution of the state of Ohio. It has always been my goal in previous judicial service, and it would be again if I'm fortunate enough to win this race, to essentially make the law predictable and consistent for all Ohioans. And I pledge to honor the rule of law and the Constitution, and to honor the 3 separate co-equal branches of government, and to mete out justice without fear or favor. And I think it doesn't matter where you live or what political party you're in or what age you are. I will work every day to serve the law and to serve with impartiality and integrity, and to instill public confidence in the court's decisions.
I would expect nothing less. And that was a perfect answer. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. And I really mean what I say too. I want people to come out there and vote, specifically to come out and make sure that we vote for Colleen O'Donnell for the Ohio Supreme Court. It's the right thing for the rule of law, and it's the right thing for Ohio's 11.5 million people to know that they have people with integrity like this on that court, our most powerful court. So, Colleen, thank you. It was a pleasure to get to know a little bit about your philosophy, a little bit about your history and your family. It was terrific. I hope you have a phenomenal campaign, and who knows, maybe there's still 4 months to go here. If there's an opportunity, perhaps we can talk again.
That would be my pleasure. Thank you very much for letting me join you.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to cut it there. And I know you've got to go, so I'll let you go. I won't make you sit here and watch me do my rap. All right, there we go. That's it. Former judge, again, I was told when I scheduled the interview that I could not call her judge. Former judge and now candidate justice for Supreme Court Justice Colleen O'Donnell. We chatted last night. Great conversation. Enjoyed every single bit of it. And I think that is, like as they said to her at the end of the conversation there, it's important for us to go out there and vote for her. Not just show up, vote for her, make it a point. Don't just kind of say, who's that person again on the judicial race? Don't just vote for the Republican vote because she is an exceptional candidate for Ohio Supreme Court Justice. All right, everybody. That's it. Thank you. Appreciate you very much. Thanks to Gary Click, State Representative, joined us earlier. Thanks to Colleen O'Donnell for Ohio Supreme Court Justice. Thanks to Dylan behind the scenes, and thanks to you. As always, we're a little bit late getting out, so we'll cut it here. Be well, be safe, and stay free. See you tomorrow. Big show tomorrow, by the way. I told you before, Brian Anderson is going to join us live at 8 o'clock. We're going to have the Declaration reading in the 7 o'clock hour, and we're going to talk a little bit about America at 2:50, because tomorrow is the last live show before the 4th of July Saturday. So we're gonna do our thing in the first hour, and then in the second hour we're gonna talk to an American hero, triple amputee Iraq War veteran, Brian Anderson will join us with a story that you absolutely must hear. So that'll be on tomorrow's episode. So thank you, everybody. Again, be well, be safe, and stay free. Bye-bye.